I mean, you hit on a million different things there. So I think we can stick with the theme of Barca's press. And like to me, the whole like I mean Casemiro, look, there was a couple moments where he shows up at the top of the box, dispossesses somebody like Memphis or Ansu as they're about to get into a good position. He's so reliable at that. He also like was the classic Casemiro thing where he hits the impossible pass when he's like falling down. He gets this gorgeous pass to Vinicius on a break. But then the simple passes or like the simple moments where you just need somebody to just stay cool, stay composed during a press. He gives it away in key areas. And I think like that, like you noted, like how the hell did Kroos come away with a 98? Was it actually 98%? I mean, I'm not even surprised that you said 98%, because it's Kroos. I'm not really. He could just not misplace a single pass for the rest of his career, and I wouldn't be surprised at that either. He just does that so like at an incredible level, and he plays so many difficult passes. But I think one of the ways that Kroos was able to hold possession so well was not just with his passing. It's that he just did like if something was like a passing lane was clogged, he wouldn't force it. He would just turn the other way, do a few shoulder drops, keep turning until something opened up, and he just wouldn't panic and give the ball away like something like that would Casemiro do or Ferland Mendy would do, where for that thing that I almost forgot about that was a whole thing last season where Mendy on the left wing gets pressured and then he tries to switch it with his right foot, and it's like so scary. And I completely that was one part of his game I just did not miss from last season. He had a couple of those today, but I think so that I think Kroos was one of the ones that you're just thankful for, who can just stay calm and composed in those situations and keep turning and turning until something is on. And he also had some ridiculous switches in this game as well. But the point about the Barca press is, I think I was also, I guess, impressed that Barca could do it. And I thought about the fact that, like, if you bring in Camavinga in a game like this, you don't even necessarily have to change the scheme. Like, you didn't have to shift from the 4-3. Maybe you could have just put in Camavinga for Casemiro. Because one of the things that got us out of pressure on certain sequences was the fact that somebody was able to carry the ball. Like, Lucas Vazquez and Militao both did this, I thought, at key moments where instead of just kicking the ball away or forcing something, they just carried the ball up the field, because Barca were just clogging the passing lanes instead of man-to-man pressing at certain points, and that worked. I think Camavinga would have been able to help us with that too, just dribbling his way out of pressure. At the same time, I was thinking, like, we've seen Ancelotti not change the scheme. If he's going to make changes at halftime or in the second half, and he just sticks with what he has and just like for like subs, and maybe he thought that this was working. And not to say that it wasn't working, but I don't think it was working that great. But I do think, like, my feeling at halftime, Matt, was that if you stick with this 4-3-3, this same version of it might get better in the second half, for the reason that Barca might not be able to sustain this press the whole game, and then transition opportunities will start opening up. And they were. Like, Vinicius was starting to get more and more space in this game as the game wore on. So did you feel like the 4-3-3 at that point, like, needed a change, or we just needed to ride it out and see how Barca sustain it?
There were moments in the first half where I was thinking to myself, I almost want another midfielder in there just to kind of provide us with an option as we're working out. I felt like we were missing that link between the midfield and the attack, especially like when we just simply couldn't build out from the back. But then Benzema started playing that false nine role, dropping deep like he so often does, and he started connecting dots. And so I think it kind of solved itself as the match wore on. And obviously, once we got the goal in transition, just an absolute, I mean, let's just give Alaba the due credit he deserves. He was phenomenal. For me, man of the match, along with Vinicius, and I think Kroos close behind those two. But Alaba was just a monster in the back. I think people quickly forgot he had a crucial block on an Ansu Fati shot in the first half too. And he was just, I've been so impressed with him since he arrived at Real Madrid, and that run was incredible. Shot was incredible. Like, you kind of have, once you saw him line up the shot, like, there's a chance this goes in. And I mean, I don't know what the XG was on that shot, but it's probably a very difficult opportunity, and he still buried it. Like, just gorgeous, gorgeous shot. And I think once we got that goal, Carlo was fine with sticking with the 4-3-3 because he knew, and Vinicius was starting to wreak havoc by then. He was already like Dest and Mingueza would try and double down and it still wouldn't be enough. And he nearly drew a penalty. I do think he went down a little bit early or a little bit soft on that. But like he was causing havoc and he was being the guy. And so I think Carlos saw that and was like, you know what, we'll just sit in a low to mid block. We'll soak up their pressure. We'll let them circulate the ball, commit numbers forward, and then bang, we'll hit them on the counter. We've got Vinicius, like he's in form, his confidence is sky high, and he's doing things that nobody else can do. And for me, like Vinicius, just I'm loving watching him. He's so fun to watch. I tweeted out that his development is kind of reminding me of Marcelo because if you think back, like around this age, it was when Marcelo really started to blossom. He under Pellegrini that first year Ronaldo came, like he played left wing a little bit and he played left back as well. And he was around 21, 22, and that's when he started to like find his groove. And then the first year with Mourinho, he really blossomed. And so I'm seeing it kind of the same way. And like once they get going, they're untouchable. And Marcelo was so fast during that period and just quick. And like the skill set they have is very similar in that Brazilian just flair and touch and ability. And I'm just loving watching Vinicius. I think he's the difference maker for us right now. And I think he's somebody that we can rely on in big games. And we couldn't say that maybe a year ago. So the fact that he's come on this much leaps and bounds in the last 6 months or so is incredible.
I feel like it was one of those games where the stats make no sense, and it was really weird because you look at the stats in this game, and if you were to not have seen this game and you're just looking at the numbers, Vinicius I think had 0 shots. I think maybe 1 key pass. He had a few completed dribbles. But the stats didn't show that he just was dropping Mingueza. And one of our patrons pointed this out on Twitter. This is the second time where Vinicius gets Mingueza subbed at halftime in a Clásico. And I think like the goal he scored, the goal he set up, sorry. For some reason in my head, I was thinking of his other goals against Shakhtar. It's interesting to see that, like, and I think Owen brought this up on Twitter, that when he gets the ball on the wing, and we're gonna talk about all the praises that Alaba deserves for that goal and throughout the game, and Matt already hinted at it, but like to me, he just played the less obvious pass that just turned out to be the better option because he could have played the more obvious pass down the flank to Alaba, but he plays that pass to Rodrigo centrally. And that unlocks a third-man run for Alaba to make that sprint into the box after he wins it from Dest initially. And, like, I thought that was just a really good play. And, like, that stuff, a lot of this stuff is not going to show up in the numbers. And his numbers were pretty weak in this game. But his performance was great. His body language was great. I love the fact that after that, soft penalty claim where he goes down. And that was the first line-breaking sequence he had in this game was that penalty shout. It was... I think it was like around 15 minutes or so. I could be wrong. I don't know what the number was exactly. It was in the 21st minute. So he cuts through, he splits Mingueza on somebody else, and he gets into the box. And then he goes down, and it's pretty soft. But Alba runs across the field to yell at him in that moment. And I just love the fact that Vinicius got up and just got in his face and didn't take any bullshit and just talked him down and talked him down and talked him down until Alba just walked away. I love that stuff. I mean, this is what we needed in the Clásico. There was too many smiles before the game. I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that there's no blood spilt anymore. And I like the fact that Vinicius can be like a villain for Barca for the next decade or so. I think we need those characters. So I like that part of Vinicius' game too. I like the fact that he didn't back down from Alba in that situation.
Yeah, it's probably best I don't get into talking about Jordi Alba because Kian will just have to edit out the entire thing.
I wouldn't edit out anything for Alba slander. It's all welcome.
We'll just leave that, detestable human being aside. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what more I can really say about Vinicius that I haven't said already. Matt touched upon a lot of things. He's just pure magic. And I think specifically on that pass was just like, you can tell Vinicius is really feeling himself, that he's just flowing in the moment and just making the right decisions that come to him. Because I was screaming at him, like, play that pass down the line to Alaba. Like, it was right there. And he sees the pass that I mean, this is why I'm not a professional footballer. That's why he is, kind of like falling on his ass, plays a near perfect ball to Rodrigo. And once that's played, I realized in that moment, like, that's the right ball, because obviously you want to play in behind if the opportunity presents itself. And if that's the only option, that's the right pass, because it continues the momentum forward. The problem is, in relation to the other pass Vinicius could have made, if you play that ball instantly, Alaba, will get up the field. There's a potential to go towards goal, but Alaba can potentially get pinned into the touchline, right? And Barca can reorganize and force us back. By delaying that pass and playing it centrally, Alaba is able to make a run that's closer towards the center, that gets him into the box, and it basically prevents or kind of like stalls the amount of time that Barca can have to recover once that pass to Alaba is made. And so that was the right decision, right? What you want to do generally when you're playing in behind is find the center, force, the team to kind of, collapse inwards, kind of stay a little bit higher up the pitch, and then play the pass in behind. And to kind of like instinctively do all of that on the counterattack, I think this more than anything just kind of shows us, Vinicius is like, I mean, he's come a long way, man. Like, he's figured it out inside his head. He's become mature in his decision making, and that was a hell of a moment on the counterattack, and it led to the goal. And then Alaba's finish was just absolutely ridiculous. I imagine the XG on that is really, really low, but he's a really good ball striker, and we don't get to see this often, right? I assume if he was a striker or something and he could get himself into goal scoring positions, he would be a player that could beat XG. But he's a defender, right? So we're going to see one of these a season, and I guess that's the advantage of having someone like that in playing, in that type of area. It can provide that type of moment from an unpredictable position. And he was the one that actually won the ball back versus Memphis to begin with, and sparked that entire play, as kind of Keon was talking about. The only way we were breaking the press on the ground was through ball carrying. And so Alaba, deserves as much credit, if not more, and probably more than Vinicius in that moment. But since we're talking about Vinicius, just kind of going back to him, it's amazing that like he was by far the best player in El Clasico. I mean, I know we say El Clasico is not what it's used to be, but there was Kroos on the pitch, Modric was on the pitch, Memphis Depay was on the pitch, Ansu Fati was on the pitch, and I include Ansu Fati in those players easily. I mean, we know how good he is. Frankie de Jong was there. I mean, there's still a lot of individual quality there, and Vinicius was by far the guy. I mean, he was my player of the match easily. And I just wonder what the game would have been like had he not been there, because I felt like he was carrying our ability to enter the final third. He was carrying our counterattack with his dribbling, with his movement off ball. And I know we could put Rodrigo out there and get some, maybe somewhat similar results, but I just kind of felt like Vinicius was the one who was doing a massive carry job to ensure that we could threaten Barca, alleviate some kind of pressure. And, without him there, maybe I'm just being, hyperbolic, but I'm not sure we would have won this game without him out there providing the relief that he was able to provide, drawing the Geza 1-versus-1. It was the exact type of performance we needed in this type of game. He stepped up in a huge way. And not a lot of, I guess, end product involvement statistics, but still 4 completed dribbles. The big one is that he drew 6 fouls, which showed how much trouble he was creating. I mean, it was just a really, really good performance.